So this is what we're going to do. Okay, so let me mark everything in the black. Whatever we cover, we'll mark them as green. Yeah, so let me mark them as black. Okay. I was expecting a couple of more guys, I mean, they dropped. One guy was from Pakistan, by the way, and one guy from Belgium also contacted me. Okay, and one more guy contacted. He never came back after that, basically. Okay. Anyway, so this is what we are going to do. Okay, we are going to cover in AWS. I will, because it's a networking class, because some of you guys are like Vijay, so you have, I mean, some understanding, but not all understanding. So I will also give you some, overview of the cloud, how it works basically, and especially around the, AWS. Okay, but in the networking world, what we are going to cover is basically VPC, virtual private cloud. Okay, I'll go through these things all in detail, so these will be very clear to you in upcoming sessions. But for now, just see these things. Okay, you don't need to take a screenshot or something like that. I'll share all those things with you. Okay, so VPC, virtual private cloud, subnets. Okay, so there are two kind of subnets, public and private. Okay, we'll discuss them, how they work basically, what is their utility as such, the availability zone. Okay, and security groups, network access list, NACL, VPC peering, how it works basically between same region, different region, same account, different accounts. So we will see all those things. Internet gateway, we will see NAT gateway, we will see elastic IP, we will see ENI is something called the elastic net. So by the way, most of the terminology in the AWS will be E. Okay, so elastic. Okay, so elastic means it's basically giving you the flexibility. You can, let's say you create one public IP address, and you can take off that public IP address from one virtual machine and you can assign to another virtual machine. So that kind of elasticity is there, and obviously the scalability as well, right? So ENI, elastic network interface, route table, routing table, we will see how the routing table works. The load balancer, we will see different types of load balancers, network load balancer, application load balancer, internal, external, those kind of things. EC2 instances, these are quite common. This is where the compute guy works. Okay, so your all the servers like Windows Server, Linux Server, they all are called the EC2, Elastic Cloud Computing Instances. Okay, the VPN gateway, we will see, we will create one site-to-site VPN, how AWS connects to the data center basically, or the customer through the VPN. Okay, we will also see the transit gateway as a VPN. So VPN, there are two kind of two way of doing the VPN things. So we'll see both ways doing the things, VPN gateway as well as the transit gateway. Okay, we will see the transit gateway. In fact, I need to bring this topic basically slightly above here. Okay. Okay. We have seen this one. We will. Okay, so these things will, let me bring these up, these topics. Okay. And yeah, so Route 53, we will see Route 53 is a DNS service in AWS. Okay, it's a very classic name. It's called the DNS service. It's called the Route 53. In Azure, same thing called Azure DNS. Okay, so just see the difference. Okay, otherwise both are doing the same thing. And VPC endpoints, VPC endpoint services, we will see which will be part of this VPC in the towards the end of the class. And we will also see that direct connect. Direct connect practical will not be possible, but I will explain how it works, because in reality, your cloud AWS to the on-prem, there are two way of connecting. One is through the site-to-site VPN, one through the AWS Direct Connect, right? So those are physical links coming to your data center, not the data center directly, but they will go to your direct connect provider, or like companies like Equinix kind of companies, okay, or even the BT or Telstra, those kind of companies, big companies. They host these all the service provider at their location. You put your router, they will connect the wires, you have the direct connect, and after that you do your Cisco routing or whatever the routers or the devices you have. Okay, so these are the topics. These are, we will cover in as a practical all these topics. Okay, we will see the demonstration with the accounts, AWS accounts, and how everything works basically. And the way I will explain you, it will be like not just a kind of just theoretical practical session. It will be more of a how the real world works basically. That's how I'm going to explain you. Okay, So any questions so far? Okay, good. Okay, recording is working fine. I just want to check double check the recording is working, right? So okay, all right. So the way the cloud works, okay. Actually, I can put this region as instead of Mumbai, I can put some, okay. Let it be like this only, okay. So the way cloud works, okay. So you got the different geography, right? Those cloud providers will have presence, physical presence, right? They call it as the geographical regions, okay. So so I can tell you the region in the our UK. So we got one in London, so that is called the Europe 2, EU West 2. Okay, there is another one which is in the Ireland, Republic of Ireland. So that's called the EU 1. Okay, EU West 1, something like that, right? And then you have the regions in many places. In India, you got in Mumbai, you got UAE. I think most of the regions are actually in, to be frank with you, so they are in the United States. Okay, so you will see more than dozens of regions there. Okay, these are the actual physical locations where AWS data center sits. Okay, all their hardware, where all the things we are talking about, right? EC2 instances and all those things, all those hardware sits in those regions. Okay, and then the regions can have multiple data centers. So let's say you have uh, London region, right? London region doesn't mean that your AWS data center will be in just one location, only physical location. It might be nearby 5, 6, 10 locations, dozens of locations. Okay, this is how they spread, and they connect. Backbone is multiple 100 gig terabyte, terabit per second. Those kind of links they connect. So that's why they are giving high efficiency and high bandwidth to the customers. Okay, so they create something called the availability zones. Okay, and these availability zone concept is exactly same in AWS as well as in the Azure as well. Okay, so generally whenever you deploy your application, so okay, let's say your application name is XYZ. Okay, XYZ. So what you do is either this application can be a a low profile application, right? Or a non-critical application like dev environment, test environment. You might just deploy in just in one availability zone that application, or it could be a critical application. Then you will deploy that application 3 availability zones. But when we are talking about the availability zones here, that means we have 3 separate physical presence of those devices at 3 different places. So one availability zone down will not impact the other availability zone at all. Okay, physically, unless until the whole city is catastrophically some problem is there. Otherwise you will not have that kind of problem. So that's how this is built. That kind of resilience is built in the cloud. So this is how the availability zones work. Okay, but when we will deploy our instances, we'll see in few minutes time how the availability zones look like, and how you configure. No, you don't configure the availability zone, by the way. Okay, you only tell your application to sit on availability zone 1 or 2 or 3 or all 3 of them. So that's how it is. Okay, so this is how the very, very basic I'm talking about these things. Okay, because our course is more of the networking, but these things are important to understand, because if you don't know these things, then it will be very difficult for grasping the other technological areas as well. Okay, so what we will do is basically we will start from the VPC. Okay, this is the foundation of AWS VPC. So VPC is nothing but it's called the virtual private cloud in AWS terminology.
Hey,
And by the
Subodh,
way, yeah.
one question. So, basic stupid question probably. Like let's say you have a application, right, and you have a web server installed in one of the region, and you can just install in one availability zone, right?
Mhm.
Now let's say I have an application in 2 availability zones. Um, like now I want to enable some other security services, something, right? So I'm confused, like if I'm right, like some service you have to voluntarily enable on all the availability zones. Some service, if you enable, it will cover all the available zones. Is it like that, or uh, or you have to turn on? How, I mean, like, does
So
it depend on the
okay,
service?
we will see this. Okay, we will see this practically. This is all part of our course, by the way. Okay, so as I said, okay, so let me just draw this in some sort of pictures for you guys to understand this thing. Okay, so let's say you have 3 different availability on. Okay, so let me just name them as the AZ1. Yeah, then you got the AZ2, and then got the AZ3. Okay, this is where you will put your application. Okay, so let's say your application. Okay, so you're going to application. So by the way, I'm just talking about one application. Okay, your application name. Okay, let's say the application name is XYZ. I told in the beginning, right? So XYZ, for example, right? So this XYZ application is hosted here, here, here. Okay, all 3 locations. So let me just put something here. Okay, so XYZ. Okay, XYZ is sitting here. Yeah, XYZ is sitting here, and XYZ sitting is here also. Okay, now, so because this application, say at large, most of the application these days are web-based. We know that, right? Whether they are the Docker, Kubernetes, or any sort of HTML, PHP, or whatever you call them, right? So they will be hosted in the web service spaces these days. Okay, most of them. So what happens is basically, so you have, let's say somebody, right? So sitting here, so they on-prem or internet, whatever. Very bad drawing. So they want to access this application, right? So generally, what will happen? These application in the 3 availability zones, but they will have a different mechanism of accessing them. They might have some DNS configuration, right? So you know that, right? DNS, without DNS, so they will have some DNS names, right? XYZ. Let's say their name is XYZ. Let's say this they are accessible like this, HTTPS, something like that. XYZ dot somedomain.com. Okay. .com or co.uk, whatever you call that, right? So you access these applications with this DNS name, right? So this DNS name, right, will resolve to 3 different IP addresses. Okay, so this application here in this availability zone will have 1 IP address. Okay, this will also have another IP address, different IP address, and this will also have another IP address, which will be a different IP address. It will have 3 IP addresses. Okay, so when you access this application, it will have 3 IP addresses. Yeah, so 1, 2, 3. Yeah, so this guy goes here, DNS resolution. Yeah, it will say, okay, your IP is coming this. So this guy will automatically go redirected to this guy. Okay, obviously this is the application team's responsibility is to make sure that all applications, the code configuration is identical. Otherwise it will break, right? So this is the job of the application. That's why we have so many application guys other than the network guys, security guy, infrastructure guys, compute guys. Then you got the application guys, and in the application there can be dozens of different types of application, right? So this guy will go here. Okay, next time he might be redirected to number 2, so he will go here. But from his point of view, end user point of view, he will not have an impact. So he will see the same interface in the backend. These application might be talking to some database servers. We don't know. I mean, in reality, yes, they do basically. Okay, so this is how it is. So coming to your question, if suppose this availability zone is down for some reason, okay, this might be one physical data center itself entire is down. So there's no impact. Yeah, because this DNS service is coming from something called the route 53. If you remember, I told you, right? Route 53. That's a kind of global kind of service from America. So this route 53 will redirect. This will say that, okay, this is dying. So you go to here. Obviously, there are more concepts behind this. There are load balancers also. We will see that all those things. But this is how it works. Okay, this down, this goes here and here. So does this answer your question, or you have got more, or is something else you're looking for?
Actually, no, but let's proceed. I'll ask you when we are
okay. Let's proceed, because when we proceed, you will have more clarity. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So as I said in my first page here, topic area, we said VPC will cover first. Okay. So everything in the AWS starts with the VPC, whether it's an application guy or whether it's a compute guy or any infrastructure guy. Without VPC, you cannot do anything. everything is deployed in a VPC, within VPC subnets, within subnets, within VPC availability zones, then subnets and all those stuffs. Okay. So without VPC, you cannot do anything. So VPC is the very basic foundation networking component in the AWS. It's called the virtual private cloud. Okay. And the Azure, the same thing is called the VNet, virtual network. Okay. Without virtual network in the Azure or without VPC in the AWS, nothing will work. So this is the very, very first thing you need to configure. And after that, obviously in the VPC, you assign a big network range, CIDR range, okay, classless internet domain routing. So CIDR range you assign, and that with that CIDR range, you create multiple, subnets there. Those subnets can be of two types, as I said before. They can be public or they can be private. Okay. So whether they are public or private, there's no distinction as such. Okay. Distinction only comes when you, you create a routing table. Okay. And that routing table says these particular public subnet, the top one I'm talking about here, they can go outside internet. Okay. Or they can be accessible from the internet. Okay. It can be kind of DMZ zone also, by the way, right? Or you can put some jump server or the Bastion server there in that particular zone. So that's where you define the public subnet. Okay. By look of the subnet, you cannot make out whether it's a public or private except the name, right? Only the routing table tells this is a public subnet because it can go to the internet. Private subnet, we don't define that routing table that it goes to the internet. So that's why it remains at the private subnet. Okay. But technically, yes, I can make private subnet as also the public subnet. Just put the default route 000. Yeah, go to the internet, go to the internet gateway. This private subnet will technically also become the public subnet. Okay, there is nobody stopping you. Okay, and this is where your architecture of the cloud comes into picture. How this is called the landing zone. Okay, how the landing zone is defined in the cloud. This is how it is defined, how your public subnet will be defined, how your private subnets will be defined, how you will create the VPCs, how you will create the availability zones. This is the work of initial setup of your cloud strategy through the landing zone. So it's all virtual thing, by the way. This is where it's a guidelines papers. This is how you will create, because when your organization grow, right, you will have the where I work in the organization, we have I think 100 plus VPCs there. Yeah, too many applications. Yeah, 100 500 plus applications running there, right? So your environment and my environment is not big still, right? You have much bigger global environment. Think about those, right? You have thousands of VPCs running. You need to define those. That definition comes from the landing zone cloud architecture forum. They define the beginning itself how new VPC will be created, how these subnets will be defined, whether you're deploying any application there or not, that's a secondary thing. Okay, but this is how you will define. Okay, so VPC, we will jump into the actually practicality. Okay, when we jump into the practicality, you will come to know what we are talking about here. Okay, now when we talk about the VPC creation, obviously that VPC you need to create in a region, right? So my most of the work will, so I've got two AWS account. Okay, so I'll work through both the accounts. So I can create VPC anywhere, by the way. I can create VPC in the United States regions, India regions, and all those stuffs, right? But here, for our class point of view, I will create our network. One account I will be mostly focused in the EU West to London region, and the other account I will be focusing on the EU West one, which is Ireland region. And you will also see that difference when I will ping between two regions. You will see that there is a latency, right? So latency could be 10 millisecond, 11, 12 millisecond, because physically those are miles apart, right? Not too far, but it's still not too close also, right? So you will see that actual difference in the latency. Okay, but if I create application for the EC2 instance in the US or India or somewhere else, latency might be 40-50 millisecond also. Okay, but I'm not going to do that. So we will focus on primarily on these two regions only. Okay, so I will start building. Okay, so please understand the course, the class, the way of this class is basically I am building this class from the level 0. Please understand. Okay, so we will start from the level 0 and we'll go to top. Okay, networking point of view. So you will, all these concepts we are talking about, they will start getting clear to you. Yeah, one by one, layer by layer, basically. Okay, so we are doing from the layer, ground layer. So when you make a new house, right? So you put a foundation, you dig the house. So this is what we are doing, VPC. Prior to that, landing zone and all those things we talked about, but networking point of view, or maybe just basic infrastructure point of view, VPC is the base. Okay, without VPC, you cannot do anything. Okay, so we will jump into our AWS accounts, and from there we will pick up what we are talking about. Let me see if I have got, yeah. So I have got here. So yeah, so console. So yeah, so so in AWS, by the way you access AWS, it is called the AWS console. Okay, same thing in Azure is called the portal. So portal.azure.com, you will go to the portal where you configure everything. Okay, in usual way, this is the how you configure. You can configure and you can build, but in a big organization, it is good for the understanding. So you need to deploy. They will also, that landing zone I was talking about, right? All those things, the cloud strategy and all those things. They will say all our configuration will be through the Terraform coding, right? But if you don't know these concepts, that Terraform is, independent application, right? So that Terraform can do Azure, AWS, even Cisco router also you can configure through Terraform, by the way, right? Cisco SD-WAN also you can configure through Terraform. A lot of things you can do. But if you don't know this concept, what will you do in the Terraform? Because same information you will have to define. What is my availability zone name? What is the resource name? What is its CIDR name? What is IP address? Those kind of things you are going to tell in the Terraform. If you don't know this, Terraform is of no use. Okay. So Terraform you can learn. Those are very basic things. Day in, day out, exactly same copy paste job goes there, but this is the real concept. Okay, so we call it as a console.aws.amazon.com. You know that it's Amazon's product. Okay, so one screen, I will open one account. So this is my ID. So go this route at yahoo.com. Okay, and I will open this one. Okay, and I will also open another account in the other, this one. Okay, either this one, aws.amazon.com console. So it will take you to the redirect and it will take you to the right place basically. Okay, so you can log back in here. So here, this second account, I will log in. But probably for today's class, only one account will be sufficient. So, but I'll still log in for you guys. Okay, this is second email ID, subocci@gmail.com. So I'll put my password here. You can create multiple accounts, and every account has a separate billing mechanism, by the way. And also, okay, so I'll tell you the thing here, okay, because once this class is done, if you're not done, you can do yourself everything, right? You can set up your account. So for 12 months, generally it's some services, not all services are free, by the way. Some services are free, okay, and so some services are free for lifetime. Some services are free for 12 months, then you pay them, pay as you go basis. But still there are services where you will be paying them. Well, I'll tell you which are the services I'll be paying. So right now it is showing you the usage here. Current month is US dollar. So okay, their billing will always come in the US dollar, by the way. Okay, so I used previously this account, so I had $9.65 pence, something, not penny basically. Yeah, previously, and it also tells which account consumed what. So I can click and I can go there. Okay, I'll show you that later on, okay, how the cost center work. But for now, let's focus on the VPC. Okay, so when you get into the console home, okay, you might have something. This is recently visited. This is what I visited. Okay, you might not see anything, or you might see just basic information like VPC and EC2, only two things. Okay, but you can always type here. Let's say I type here Docker. I don't know, Docker will come here or not, Docker. Yeah. So something will come, container service. Okay. So I can click here and I can go here. Okay. So I can click. So I'll go to the Dockers. Okay. And if I go to my console home now, so you will be able to see that will be. So if I go here, yeah, services, yeah, console home. So this is how you go. Okay. So if you miss that, where to go, you go here, console home. Okay. In the console home, you will see that again, the recently visited items will be listed here. Okay. Now I visited something new that should I'm not configured, so it's not coming. So it will come here. Okay. Otherwise, you can view all the Amazon, AWS provided services by this, or you just type in here. Okay. Okay. One more thing I just want to tell. So if you go to setting, okay, this account. Okay. By the way, let me just show you something here. Okay. My account information. Okay. So as I said, I have created two accounts. So one account will become primary. Okay. And the second account or the subsequent account will become the child accounts. Okay. So your primary account, this is my primary account, and I have renamed this account as AWS-SR-prod. Okay. Just for this class point of view, so that we have the understanding. And if you look at the other account, that is AWS SR development. Okay. So where are we? So this is some private information, but that's fine. Okay. So some things are, disabled for me. I mean, for everybody, it would be like that. And what is enabled, it is there. Okay. Then you can click on the cost explorer. It will tell you what is the cost. Okay. The point what I was saying is that where was I? Yeah, account settings. So this is my account ID here and the account name, my password, and if we go here, organization. So if you go to the organization here, okay. Because these are the things you need to understand. Okay, so networking you can build up on the top of it, but these are the foundation things you should be aware of. Okay, so root organization I am at. Okay, in the root organization I have got two accounts. So you can see it here. So AWS SR prod. This is my management account, right? This is my primary account. This is my account ID. Okay, this is globally unique for. It's automatically created. This is globally unique. Okay, it has its own significance. You cannot ignore this. Okay, your billing, everything will come on this number. This is not a phone number, this is the account number. If my email ID, then I join on this blah, blah, whatever it is, right? So this is second account. Okay, you can rename the account, which I'll show you, and also just keep eye here in this tab. Okay, this is important where you are connected, because I'm checking the account setting. It is at the global level. Okay, not at the specific region level, right? So if you see my other account, if you see, so I'm landed at the Ireland. You remember I said I will be working on other account on the Ireland, the one account in London. So when I logged into this account initially, it landed me in the London. So right now I cannot change for this setting. So it's all disabled. Yeah, for this particular setting. But this account will land me in the when I first log in to this one, EU West to Europe, London. Okay. So I have put a setting here. So if you click on the settings here, more user settings. So this is where you tell when you first log in. Okay, this is also important because sometime when you will be doing your own class or learning later on, you might do a lot of things, and later on, after 1 hour 2 hours or so, you will realize, oh god, where I'm configuring all these things in a different region. See, I'm now in North Virginia, right? This is where I don't want to configure. I want to configure in the London, for example, right? So you can set something here. Yeah, default region for this account. So you can edit. Okay, I have set this for London. So whenever I will log in first time into my this account, okay, or any subsequent time, I will always come on London region. So even by mistake, I will be configuring all my resources in London region only. Okay, so when I came, I was first in London, but when I moved into different services, it has taken me to North Virginia. Okay, so this is important to understand which region you are working on. Okay, so let's go to the console again here. Okay, and so it will take me to the Virginia again, because that's changed now. Okay, but if I log out and log back in, it will take me to London always. Okay, so let me do that for you guys one more time. Okay, so let me log back into my primary account. Okay, so yeah, to have this access in the AWS, what you need to do, you need to give your home address, everything, your billing address, and you also need to supply your credit or the debit card information. In the initially, I think they will block some $1 or £1. okay, for a few days, and just for the verification whether this card is valid or not, this guy is valid or not. Once they verify after 5-6 days or so, that will be removed from your account. They will not charge you anything, okay? And their billing happens on monthly basis. At the end of the month, they will tell you this is what you consume, and that bill they will send you, okay? So obviously we live in UK, so our bill comes actually in dollar. So they convert into the pound and they give the bill. This is how it works. It might vary. All right. So we were talking about the VPC. So let's first thing first. Where is the VPC? VPC is gone from here now, right? So don't worry. VPC is gone from here. That's not the end of life. Either you can go to view all service or you can search VPC. VPC is the foundation. Okay. Without VPC, nothing will happen. So VPC is the very first thing you will always configure in the AWS. Okay. Now let's go back to my drawing again. Okay. So when you configure the VPC, right, you configure that VPC in a region, right? Number one. Number two, you give a name to the VPC. This is important. Okay. So you need to define your naming standard. So company, you know that, right? So your router's naming standard, application naming standard. So for that matter, now the cloud naming standard will be defined in the beginning itself. If I'm creating VPC, the name will be like this, blah, 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 right? If I'm creating an application, name will be like this. Okay. I'm creating a load balancer, name will be like this. I'm talking about the cloud load balancer. Okay. If I'm creating a subnet within load balance within VPC, this will be my name of the subnet. Okay. Very important. So what we are going to do, we are going to create our first VPC now. Okay. And this VPC, we will name this VPC as web -prod -VPC -1. Okay, this is will be the name. And as I said, every VPC will have at least one, okay, CIDR. So this is called the CIDR, classless internet domain routing, means subnet. Okay, so we'll give this as some new subnet 10.1.0016. Okay, and all these that's why it's called the CIDR here. Okay, in the we know that it's called the CIDR. Okay, anything in the slash format is called the CIDR, but they call it, everybody in the AWS world application guy you talk, they will say CIDR. Can you give us this CIDR range? Okay, they will not say subnet, because in their terminology subnet is different. Private subnet, public subnet, right? They will also have their own CIDR or the IP subnet, you can call them, rather than the subnet, right? Okay, so we'll give this CIDR. Okay, and we'll create this. So let's copy this. Okay, so we are in our life, if you have not done before, this will be, we are going to create the first VPC. You see this, I'm landed in the London zone. Okay, this is my primary account, SR Prod. Okay, so right now if you see, I have 0 by default. By the way, actually it was not 0, I have deleted them. By default there will be default VPCs created. So if I just click on some any other region, let's go here, Virginia, for example, North Virginia. So you will see that there will be default some VPC, some subnet, something created. And for that, they will not charge you, by the way, because for subnet, sorry, for VPC alone, these services, they will not charge you. Okay, they will charge you on the top of it when you start building your compute, like EC2 instances and all those things. Okay, when you start consuming it, then they will start charging you. Okay, right now they will not charge. By default, all VPCs, all regions will come a default VPC. That will be this VPC. Okay, if you click here, I'm in the north, just keep your eye here. Okay, North Virginia. So if you see here your VPC, so this is the VPC, and if you see here, it will say something default. See, tenancy default. This is the thing I'm saying. This is the default VPC. Okay, so every region will have some default, and they have their own CIDR range. You see this CIDR 172.31. Okay, so we don't want to work on these VPCs. Okay, we want to create our own brand new VPC. So let's go back to our London region again. Okay. Are you okay with my pace of explaining, or bit fast, or okay?
It's fine, Subodh.
All right, great.
Like we have done these kind of tutorials, and I have basically created everything, whatever
Yeah,
you are telling right now. So
yeah,
it's a revision for me.
yeah, great, Rajiv. I understand. So this will be revision for you, and it could be more than a revision also. Depends. Yeah. All right. So you landed in the VPC dashboard. Okay, that will tell you VPC and all those things. So So VPC NAT gateway, there's 000 here. Okay, I've not created anything. I've deleted in fact whatever was there. Okay, so let's create our first VPC. Okay, so we click here and we create the VPC. Okay, VPC is our first foundation block. Okay, so I am creating VPC only. Okay, if I say VPC and more, it will talk about your other stuffs like your subnets, private subnet, public subnet, and all those stuff. So if I click here, you will see that, right? You see here, right? So it will ask more things to do that. Okay, if you don't know, then it's an easy way of doing it. So you give a name of the VPC, like he has auto-generated project, right? Then this subnet name he has automatically generated. You can change them. Okay, when you create this thing, so you can change them, right? So let's create only VPC blank. Okay, core VPC. So let's name that VPC as I said, web-prod-vpc-. Okay, IPv4 CIDR manual. So let's go back to our drawing. So we keep our drawing everything same. Okay, so this VPC will have this CIDR. Okay, now VPC has one CIDR. Okay, but actually in practicality, you will be configuring subnet after this. Okay, and these subnets will be driven from these CIDRs only. Okay, we'll see that. So this CIDR, so every private or public subnet, IP subnet will start from 10.1. something. Okay, so that's all. Tenancy you always create in the default. You don't want to do in the dedicated because that will be different thing. That's a more chargeable from the AWS point of view. Okay, and there are certain things we can click there. Okay, number one, this is a name tag. Okay, so name tag. Okay, here, and yeah, he has already put the name here. The name is this. Okay, and I can create the VPC. Simple. So VPC creation is simple, but you need to know what is VPC actually. Okay, and when you create this VPC, it will create certain things for you like your NACLs, network access list, right? Your routing table, default, and all those stuff. Some DSCP option which probably we don't need. We will need this routing table and all the stuff, but we will not use their default. Okay, we will use our own routing table because this is what we are going to learn, right? There are certain things you can see in the settings here. Let me do some changes in this one. Okay, let me change the edit VPC setting. Let's see what options are there. Okay, I want to enable the DNS resolution and DNS host name. Okay, these two things. We'll see its a significance when we will do the route 53 things. Okay, but for now, let's just do this one. Okay, and save it. Okay, so we have created one VPC. So if you click on the VPC again here, okay, so you will see this is your VPC, web prod 1. This name, what you're seeing here is actually the tag. Okay, this has less significance. The VPC ID will be created for you, automatically generated by the AWS, and it's a globally significant, by the way. Okay, this is a very unique name. So they have worked out that they can have millions, billions, trillions of records, right? And if you see, they have some routing table associated, access list associated. So see here, this is not a default VPC because we have created, and owner is this guy, account name. This is my account name. See, ending with 64. So you see here, ending with 3064. This is my account name. So I am the owner. This guy is the owner for this VPC. All right. So this VPC is created. This is very foundation block. So now we have done the VPC, right? After VPC, what is next? This is where you create your subnets. Okay, and subnet, as I said, you define public subnet and the private subnet. Okay, for now, what we will do, we will create both type of subnets, private subnet and public subnet, and we will create subnet in each availability zones. Okay, 3 availability zones. Okay, so let's do one by one. Okay, so let's create. Okay, we will give them name like this. Okay, and we will create this subnet in the availability zone 1, then 2, and then 3. Okay, let's do this one. So let's create the public subnet first. Okay, so first VPC created, right? Then we go to the subnets. That's my second task. Okay, so we will, so there's blank here, there's no subnets, right? So you assign these subnets to VPC. So let's create the subnets. Okay, in the subnet, you tell which VPC I am talking about, right? So this is important because if you look here, this has a CIDR of 10.1.00. That means my subnet IP address will also start with 10.1 dot something. It cannot be 10.2 dot. It will not accept, right? So it has to be 10.1 because this is the VPC we are working on, right? So let's create that. Okay, so I have chosen this VPC, right? And I will say my subnet name. So I am creating 3 public subnet and 3 private subnets. Okay, we may not be working all these subnets, but we will create them. Okay, we'll see. Okay, so let's create that. Okay, now he's asking which availability zone you want to create this subnet. So if you remember, I said I'll create this in availability zone 1, this one 2, this one 3, right? And this is the CIDR range. So let's take the CIDR, not the CIDR, IP subnet basically for this subnet. Okay, so if you don't know no preference, it will don't know where will it put you in, right? Either this or this. You see there are 3 availability zones, right? So mostly you will always see there are 3 availability zones. Okay, you should always check AWS manual for a specific regions how many availability zones are available. Okay, this is important because these are physically separate location completely from each other. Okay, we said availability zone 1. So I will say generally they call it a 2A, 2B, 2C also. Or let me pick this AZ1. Okay, we are doing this way AZ1, AZ2, AZ3. Okay, so I'm going to put this public subnet 1 into AZ availability zone 1. Okay, now next is the IP address. So if you see here, this is VPC. Okay, so IP subnet CIDR block. What will it be? So it is a default, it is giving me 10.1.00/28, but I'm not going to give that. I'm going to give IP this one 10.1.10. Okay, so my naming the numbering scheme is this. Okay, for public subnet I will do 10, 20, 30, or private subnet I'll do .1, .2, .3. Okay, just clarity point of view basically. Okay, so this one I'm doing 10.1.10.0/24, right? So this one you can see that 256 IP is available. So we know that, right? The /24 has 0 to 255, right? So that's a range basically. So if I want, I can create all 3 subnets here itself, or I can create one subnet, then I create another. Okay, let's do one subnet here, then we'll create 2 subnets later on. Okay, let's do this. So subnet is being created. So you can see that if you click here anywhere here, okay, let's say click here. So you will see the details will come at the bottom, okay, of that subnet. Okay, like subnet ID is this. So it's the same subnet ID. What are you seeing that 568. This is important, right? And subnet CIDR range 10.1.10.0, right? Which availability zone it is in? AZ1, EUS2. Okay, route table assigned is a default route table assigned to it. Okay, we haven't created any route table yet. Okay, so route table is a very, very important concept here in the AWS. We haven't done anything yet, so we will see that. Okay, now it's the important thing is here. So available IP addresses are 251. So I mean, we know that we can't do the first IP address 0, and we can't do the last IP address because they are your network ID 0 and your broadcast ID, right? But other than that, out of 256, we can do 254 IP address, right? But it is saying us only 251 are allowed available. So not 254. Do you know the reason for that? So there are 3 IP addresses which are always blocked for you to assign to the application, to the servers. Okay, so those IP addresses are 1, 2, and 3, by the way. Okay, so they are like your, AWS also has a virtual router, right? So if you look at your VPC here, this VPC has itself inherently virtual router. Okay, for these subnets. Okay, so for these subnets will have their own virtual routers. Okay, if you go out from this virtual, this subnet, you'll go to that virtual router internally. Okay, you're not seeing that here, but it is there. So those are like your, like Cisco world, right? You got .1 IP address here, .2 IP address here, then you have the HSRP or VRRP virtual IP address, right? That's exactly the same concept here happens. So that's why these 3 IP addresses are reserved. Okay, then it will also tell which routing table is assigned, NACLs, security groups, and all those things. We haven't done anything yet, so we will see that later on. Okay, so right now we have created only subnet creation, first subnet creation. Okay, let's create 2 more public subnets. Okay, this time we will create in one go 2 public subnets. Okay, so let's name them as what? What did we name that previous one? Did I name correctly or not? Let me just double check that. Yeah. Yeah, correct. subnet I've given. The web prod VPC 1, public subnet 1. Okay, so let's create the other two. So let's create these two. Okay. So VPC, first of all, we will have to tell which VPC you are talking about. Right now we have only one VPC, so I'm seeing one. Okay, so there will be hundreds of VPC in your production environment, right? So let's give this one subnet name and also give the IP CIDR for this subnet. So second one will be 10.1.20 we want to give. Okay, 10.1.20.0/20 and availability zone. I am giving this to availability zone 2, right? And name is this. So it has picked up automatically. You can give another tag also if you want, for your searching point of view, you can search with the tags. Okay, then you add the another subnet here. Okay, third subnet we are doing this one. Okay. So this one, I want to name that as web prod VPC 1 public subnet 3. And this one will go to the availability zone 3. Okay. And this one, I want to give the IP address as 10.1.30.0/24. Okay. I'm just typing it here now. So 3 subnets, public subnets are created. So let's create them. Okay. Next, I'm going to create the 3 private subnets for you. Okay. So right now, if you look here, okay, you can refresh this screen here. Yeah. So right now it's showing me 2 subnets here, right? So if I refresh, it will be 3 actually. So you see here, it should be 3. So why it is okay? Because it's picking up these 2. So let's remove them. So if you refresh, yeah, it's already showing me 3. So public subnet 1, 2, and 3. Okay. So if you look at the information, they have 10.0, 20.0, 30.0, and they will also tell you which availability zone you are in. Okay, so this is zone ID AZ1, AZ2, AZ3, but this is actual availability zone 2A, 2B, 2C. Okay, you could have gone either way, right? I mean, either you pick 2A, 2B, 2C or AZ1, AZ2. Okay, but if you look at this AWS document, it will also tell you maybe in detail, or you can check with your account manager which is more powerful. Generally they are more or less the same, but still you can check, which will be better for our primary application, something like that, right? Anyways, so let's create 3 more subnet, private subnet this time. Okay, now you're seeing that, right? I'm just naming them as private and public. There's no difference right now. There's no difference whether it's a private or public. Okay, you can make public as private, private as public. Name is not distinguishing that whether it's a private or public. Name is just telling it's a private and public. Okay, functionality will come only when you do the route table later on. Okay, we'll see that. So let's do this subnet. Let me create. Okay, I can't do that. I can do that. So I want to create another one. This one will be 2. Okay, and another one will be 3. It's private subnet 3. Sorry, 3. Okay, let's give the IP ranges, IP CIDR for the subnets. So as I said before, these will be 10.1.1, 10.1.2, 10.1.3. Okay, so let's give it 10.1.1.0/24. Okay, and second one, sorry, what did I do? Oh yeah, it's there. Fine. So second one, okay, availability zone also, let me just put in the right availability zone. So first subnet I'll put in the AZ1. Second subnet I will put in the AZ2. Okay, and subnet ID this time it will be 2.0, and third one will be this one. Okay, so no preferences, so I'll put this into the AZ3. Yeah, this one. Okay, so I'm going to create this. Okay, so let's see our console, VPC console, and see that what's happening there. So let's clear these filters here. So I got the 3 subnets here. Okay, so you see here, so private subnet 1, 2, 3, public subnet 1, 2, and 3. Right, so 6 subnets are there, and all subnets will have, more or less same information. So if you refresh here, so you see that ACL. So they are all assigned this ACL, network ACL. They are all assigned one specific route table. Also, where the route table gone? Okay, there should be route table, but it's not telling me. Okay, so let me see. Okay, that route table might be. Let me just see that. Yeah, root table is this one. Okay, so if you look here, root table, you can click here, right? You can see root table, this one, RTB, root table, and ID this, and this root table is only saying that you can, what it is saying by default, it is assigning one default root table, and that root table is saying that within this big VPC CIDR, this is VPC CIDR, right? 10.1.0016, right? Within this CIDR, you can talk to each other. So your next target, right? What target you're seeing here? Target is in our Cisco world. It's the next hop, right? Your next hop is your local. Local means it's a locally routable, right? So you're not going outside of the VPC. So you are within VPC. So if I go to the diagram again, so these guys, this guy can talk to this guy, this guy, this guy. So within VPCs, all the subnets can talk. So this is the default routing table. So if I remove this, they can't talk to each other. Okay, but we will not use this default route table. We'll create our own route table. Okay, because this is how we want to build. So we have created subnet. If you look at this route table here, so this is the default route table created when we created the VPC, right? So you will be able to see here, this route table is part of this VPC here. Okay, and you see these routes are there. Yeah, by default, this is the route. Within 10.1.0.0.0, your target is this. If you click on the edit here, you will see destination 10.1.0.0 and your target is local. So you have these targets, okay, because there is not much defined, so you don't see much options here. Okay, so what we have done here is we have created VPC, okay, in London region, and that within that VPC we gave one CIDR, big CIDR /16, and we have created 6 subnets. Okay, we named 6 subnets as public 1, public 2, public 3, private 1, private 2, private 3. But right now, just for the namesake, they are private, public. Otherwise, they are all same right now. Okay. Now, the thing is, which will make it as public or private is called the route table. Okay. So now we will do that stuff. And if you look here, one more time here. So target, right? Your target will be internet gateway for the public subnets. Okay, but because we have not created any internet gateway yet, so you're not seeing that target here. Okay, so we will go in a minute for that one. Okay, what I want to do is basically I want to delete this route table if I can. I think it probably will not allow me. It will say that you are okay because we have these associated here already. By default, they are associated. I can disassociate them, then delete. Let me try to delete. It will probably cannot be deleted, right? It will not. So I can remove their association. Okay, so you see that the 6 subnets, they are associated. This route table is associated with all these subnets here. Okay, let me remove them. Okay, so let me, sorry, what I'm doing here. Okay, available subnets. Okay, so right now it is associated. Okay, let's not do this way. Let's go to the subnets here. Okay, subnet association. Okay, so you see here, so these are the subnets you do not have. Okay, that route table is not currently associated with any subnets right now. Okay, so it is not associated, so it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I can associate it, but I don't want to. Okay, actually I wanted to delete. Okay, what did it say when we delete this? Let's go there one more time. The route tables are main route table for VPC, cannot be deleted. So this one cannot be deleted, as simple as that. Okay, so we'll leave this as is. Okay, we have not associated this route table with the any subnet anyways. Okay, the other thing will be security gateway and NACLs. We'll come to that later on. So what we will do, so this is very, what is that called? The foundation block of the infrastructure building into the AWS. So first you do the VPC, right? After VPC, you create a subnet, right? Public subnet, private subnet, and that after that you host the application into that, right? And unless these are created, subnet, private subnet, public subnet, or the VPC, you cannot host the any application or the EC2 instances. Okay, so we will come to that in a minute. Other than that, I just want to tell you the route table and NACLs and the security group as well. Okay, so now what we will do, we will create the internet gateway. Okay. Without this internet gateway, by the way, I cannot have access to those public subnets or any machines in the public subnet to go to the outside world or having inbound access. So what we need to do, we need to create the internet gateway. Okay, so it will be in my slide deck somewhere, that information. Okay, but for now, let's create the internet gateway. Okay, where are we? Yeah, let's create the internet gateway here. Okay, internet. So create an internet gateway. Creating internet gateway is very, very simple. You name that internet gateway. Okay, so let's go to the drawing again. It will, my drawing will have gateway name here. Okay, let's give that name like this only. So WPVIGW1. Okay, this is the, so you see this diagram. Now you see the diagram. This diagram will make sense to you, right? So this is later on, but this is VPC. Then you have subnet. Within subnet, I have hosted some, EC2 instances, servers here. One Windows server, one Linux server in public subnets, one in the private subnet. Okay. These subnet, if you look at here, the line here, so these are going towards the routing table is going toward the internet gateway. Then it connects to the internet, right? So let's do that. Let's create the internet gateway first of all, and I will name this as WPV. So because we are working in the web prod VPC, yeah, and IGW means internet gateway. You can give your own name, whatever the naming standard is there. Okay, creating internet gateway is a very, very simple task. You just say name. That's it, basically. So your gateway is created, right? After you create the gateway, you attach this with the VPC. So right now it is saying detached. It's not associated. So even if I've created, it has no value. So I need to attach. So if you see this diagram here, so this gateway is sitting at the border of this VPC. The yellow line. Yellow line is of the VPC. Yeah, the outer black or blue line is your region. Okay, so this one is sitting at the edge border of the VPC. Okay, so I need to associate this gateway to the VPC. So action, if I go to the action here, it will say attach to the VPC. Right now it's a detached, so let's attach. Without attaching it, it will not work. I mean, it will work, but I cannot do anything. So the servers can't go out and inbound access will not be there. Okay, let's attach this internet gateway to the VPC. So if you see here, the state is attached, right? So if I click here again, so this is my internet gateway created, right? And this internet gateway ID is this. So if I just click, as I said, click here somewhere, okay, here or here, outside somewhere. So you will see the detail below underneath here. Okay, so internet gateway ID is this. This is a unique ID generated by AWS. Okay, and state is attached, and it is attached to this VPC. You remember that our VPC ID is this, yeah, which is webprod1 VPC1, and I'm the owner of this internet gateway. Okay, now I will do the route table configuration for you guys. Okay, now, so two kind of route table I will do. So if I go back to my yeah, let's stick on this one. Okay, one route table I want to create for the private subnets. Okay, and one route table I want to create for the public subnet. Okay, the difference between these two is the public subnets can go out, private subnet cannot go out. Okay, so right now let's create two route tables. Okay, and then I will associate those route table with these subnets, and then you will start seeing the difference of what is public subnet and what is a private subnet. Okay, so let's create the route table. Okay, so let's forget about this default route table. Let's create our new route table. Okay, two route table we are going to create. Okay, and let's give the good name to these route tables so that we remember what we are talking about. Okay, generally we give name as a route table as RT. Okay, let me give as prod VPC 1. Okay, and I will say this as public subnet RT. Let's give it 1. Okay, even though we are creating just one, let's give it 1. Okay, maybe in the future we might do 2, 3, 4. I mean in the prod environment. Okay, but you need to define a proper naming standard. Okay, so what it is telling me, this route table I am creating this VPC1 and for the public subnets. Okay, so I'll just copy this line also, and I'll associate this to this VPC. That's it. Okay, After this, I need to define the routes, actual routes in this route table. Okay, let's first create the route table. Okay, and let's create two route table, another one. Okay, for the private subnet. So this is for this route table, you know, subnet association and all those things. We'll do that in a minute. Let's create the another route table. Okay, so you see this one we have created. Okay, let's create one more for the private subnet. Okay, I'll say it as a private subnet. Okay, and let's do this one, and let's create this one. Okay, so two route tables created here. You see that, right? So two route tables are created. If they're not shown for some reason, just do a refresh button. Okay, it has already said it's successfully created. Okay, so this is the public subnet route table. So if you see the details here, okay, so you see that subnet association, there is no subnet associated right now, and these are the available subnets where we can attach them. Okay, we will do that now. So let's do that. Okay, and also private subnet. Okay, so right now there is no difference. Both will look like same. And if you see the route, by default it will create that, because we created this route table for that VPC. You remember that it told us which VPC you want to attach. So we set this VPC. So by default it will create a local route for you 10.1.0, so that whether you are in the private subnet or public subnet, right, you can talk to each other. Yeah, so this route is created for you by default. Okay, after this, on the top of it, you create more route to go to, you know, let's say internet, go to this internet gateway, go to another VPC. The next hop or the target will be the VPC peer link, something like that, right? That we'll do that later on. Okay, let's focus on editing these subnets. Okay, so let's do this one first. First thing first. So first thing, what you do, you associate them with the subnets. Which subnet this routing table will be applicable to. So there are 6 subnets right now, right? And because this is a public one, so let's associate them with the all 3 public subnets. Okay, so we will say edit subnet association. Okay, so we will say 1, 2, and 3. So 3 public subnet I am associating this routing table. Okay, so save association. So now you will see these will move up. So these will come here now, right? So if you do refresh, if you don't do the refresh also, it's already there. So click here, subnet. So you have these public subnets associated. Okay, and below you have 3 left now. Okay, these 3 left are the private, which we will associate with the this route table. Okay, let's do that. So we will go to the subnet association again and edit subnet association. So out of 6, let's do the private ones, right? 3. Okay, save association. Yeah, so you see this. This will also tell you that 3 subnets it is associated, and this is not a main one. Yeah, this is the default one, is the main one, but we are not working on this one. Okay, at all. Okay, we are only working on our, which we created, these 2 route tables. Okay, now route table is created, subnets. Let's go to this drawing again. Yeah, so route table is created. Where are we? Here. Yeah, so route table is created, and that route table is, one route table is associated with these 3 subnets, public subnet. One route table is associated with the private subnet. But right now they can't do anything because we haven't defined any routes within that. Okay, now let's define the routes for the public subnet. Private subnet we are fine because we are only locally concerned, so I am okay with that, whatever entry is there. Let's do a default route. Sorry, this picture. Yeah, and this will tell you to go to the internet. You know, your next hop or the target is internet gateway. Okay, you remember we created in the previous section internet gateway, right? So let's edit this one. So let's select this route table. Okay, and say routes here. See the routes. So by default, this one local route is there. Okay, which is active, right? Propagated active. So we will say edit now. Okay, this is default. Now we will add the route. So without this entry, no EC2 instance you can create, by the way. Okay, but they cannot be accessed from the outside, or they cannot go out also. Okay, so let's create a destination as 000. So you know that, right? Default gateway is no, the default gateway. Yeah, default gateway 000. The Cisco world 000 is called the default gateway. To go to anywhere 000, Yeah, not a specific subnet like 10.2.0 or something anywhere else in the world. We are all networking guys. So you see the more entries here, right? So I am concerned here the internet gateway. So when I click here, it will ask me which internet gateway. So it will tell me the ID of the internet gateways here. Yeah. So this is the gateway we created previously. You see this WPV IGW1, we created this one, right? So what I'm saying, for this public subnet route table to go to internet, this is your target or this is your next hop, right? In the diagram one more time. And this route table is associated with these public subnets. So I'm going next hop this. After this, anything I create here, they will be accessible from outside inside both. Okay. So let's do this one and save the changes. After doing this, in reality or in practicality, these are actually public subnets. So this makes the difference between the public and the private subnet. Anything else doesn't make any difference unless until you tell that public subnet to go to outside. Your next hop target is internet gateway. Until that point, there is no distinction between private and public subnet. Just name is there, public and private. Otherwise, in technically there is no difference. Now in reality, these are in reality actual, they are public subnets because we have told them internet gateway is your next hop to go to the internet anywhere else in the world. Okay, these subnets, any machines in the private subnet cannot go out because we have not told them, so they can only talk inside this VPC. Okay, so now we will do quickly on the where are we here? Right. So these topics here, right? So we have done VPC creation, subnet creation, route table creation we have done for public and private. Okay. Now two things we will do, and internet gateway, by the way, we have done internet gateway creation and attached to the VPC. And also we told that which subnets will go to the internet, right? And okay, public subnet, if you okay, now important point here. So okay, internet gateway, if you go here, it will have one public IP address also here. If I click here, it should have actually no, it will not have its own public IP address. Okay, public IP address is assigned to the EC2 instance. Okay, so EC2 instance, when you create with the public IP, by default it will give you some public IP address. Okay, the point here is this: moment you switch off that machine, right, EC2 instance, or reboot, that public IP address will be lost and you will be assigned a new public IP address. Okay, the point I'm saying is basically there's something called the EIP. Okay, elastic IP. So elastic IP is nothing but it's a fixed IP address, fixed public IP address in the AWS. You need to create that if you want to retain the public IP address. Okay, but obviously there is a cost for the EIP. You need to bear in mind. Okay, so they will give you one fixed IP address. So no matter your system server reboot, switch off, you switch on after 4 months, 5 months, that IP is yours. It's reserved for you. You are paying for that. Okay. Otherwise, it will have a public IP address, but it will be lost again and again. Okay. So bear in mind, that's called the EIP. Okay. So now, what's the time right now? So 5:30. Do you want me to cover the security group and NACL just quickly now? So we take the break after that. Yeah.
Yeah, Subodh, good. Subodh,
Yeah.
can you
Yeah.
quickly show again the route table for the
Yeah.
private subnet?
Yeah. So this is public subnet. So if you see the actual routes within this public subnet, so there is a 00 which we created manually, and it was there. This entry was there, right?
Mhm.
So this means locally you can talk. Okay. And if you look at the private subnet, there is only one. This one. Correct?
Okay.
So this subnet cannot go out. If I make it as go out, this private subnet, I mean, technically it will become public subnet basically, right? This is dangerous.
Yeah.
Yeah, very dangerous. So that's why I'm saying that in the beginning, as a your cloud architecture in the organization, you define your landing zone, how public private subnets will be created. Whether you are using them or not, you still need to be aligned with your strategy, right? You cannot have public subnet hosting something private, information there, or private into public, something like that, right? So these are important, right? Technically you can do, but you should not do. Okay.
Can you use same IP address for different VPCs since they are
Oh,
all
yeah.
isolated?
These VPCs
Okay.
are absolutely independent. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. I can create another VPC with the same CIDR range.
Okay.
Okay. It's like your Cisco world, right? VRF.
Mhm.
Yeah. In the VRF, you can have the same IP subnet in two different VRF, correct?
Got it.
However,
Yeah.
if you want to them talk to each
Make
other,
them communicate. That's a complicated
then
scenario.
you will either have to do the netting or you need to have a separate, But if you want
Got
an kind of isolated environment for testing, development, a lot of testers are there, right? You create a lot of test machine. You can have the same for that. Sometimes that, right? Testers will say, I want to have the same IP address because he want to test his application on the same IP address. He knows that if his IP will change, things will change. So that's why you want to have the same IP address. Yes, you can have the same IP range in the another VPC. Okay, it's possible. They are completely independent. All right, so let's quickly look at the NACL and security group. Then we'll take a break. Okay. So let's first look at the NACLs. Okay, what is a NACL? So we did not create this NACL. This is created, see here, default. When we created the VPC and it created this NACL for us, and it associated this with this VPC here, the VPC we created. And there are two inbound rules and two outbound rules. Okay, let's understand what is NACL first, then we'll go to the security group. Okay, so let me explain you something in the, I created this diagram some time back here. Okay, so I can create again here. Okay, something like that. I don't think, yeah, that's the only diagram. Yeah. So yeah, NACL. So NACL, first thing first, NACL is associated or attached with the subnet. See, you see here the VPC, right? After VPC, you have multiple subnets, right? So NACL is associated with the subnets. So this subnet will have one NACL, this subnet will have another NACL, right? You can have this same NACL also with the same subnets, right? Security groups are attached either with the whole server. When I'm saying server, it's an EC2 instance, okay? Either with that whole instance, or it can also be attached with the network interface card, ENI, Elastic Network Interface, okay, of that EC2 instance. So it can be associated anywhere, okay? Sometimes people do, if you want more granularity, you can attach with the network interface card. If you don't want that kind of granularity, I think just server is fine. That's it. Or you can create, okay, you can also create single security group and you can attach that security group with all these servers, same security group. You don't need to create, as long as you know that the rules are going to remain same. Security group and NACLs are what? Is there, Cisco access list or kind of firewall? Okay, that's it. Okay. Now the difference between NACL and security group, other than being attached here in the subnet level or the instance level, the biggest difference is NACL is not scalable, number one. Okay. Number two, NACL is not stateful. Okay, it's exactly same as your Cisco access list. You define outbound rule, so you can go out, but your return traffic will not be allowed. So you have to also allow the return traffic. So everybody can come in also, right? So it's a both way you have to define. That's why it's not a very good design or a very good thing to do. So and also it's not scalable, means you cannot have too many entries. I think 10 or 20 are there by default. You can't go more than that. And if you want to go more than that, you have to go to AWS and tell them, I want to have 100 entry in the NACL. Then their coders will do something for you. They will charge you something. They will say, okay, now you can have the 100 entry. So what people do, organization do, they don't use NACL for protection nowadays. Okay, they generally at the NACL level, they will generally say, okay, all my private subnet 10.0/8, 192.168 or class, class A, class B, class C subnet, allow everything because they will be private subnet, right? The granularity comes actually in the security group. Okay, and this security group is also access list, but this is a class, what is a stateful access list. Okay, whatever goes out can come in, return traffic allowed. Whatever comes in can go out also. Okay, and it is scalable. The other difference, in the security group, from the firewall point of view, I'm saying, right? In the firewall, you tell what is your source IP address, correct? What is your destination IP address? You also tell what is your destination port. It's a five tuple kind of things, right? But in the security group, your direction of the rules will be either inbound or outbound, similar to what you do in the firewall, right? But when it is inbound rule, yeah, you only tell which source you are coming from. So you only define the source, okay, and port number, okay. And when it is outbound rules, you only tell that what is the destination you are going to and what is the port number you're going to. You don't tell the source for the outbound, okay. For inbound rule, you don't tell the destination. The reason is because this security group is assigned to this entire EC2 instance, okay. So that means my traffic is always coming to these servers, right? So I don't need to define that destination. I only need to define the source for inbound. And likewise for the outbound, when I'm going out from these servers, we know that, right? My traffic will come from these EC2 instances, these servers only, these IPs. I don't need to define this source. I only need to define where I want to go to, destination and port. That's it. So that's the other difference from the firewall point of view. These are not the real firewall, to be honest, okay? But they have a certain level of protection because security groups is definitely used day in, day out, okay? Because this is your real protection, right? But obviously, in the AWS, you can also put your own firewall, like Palo Alto firewall. You can do Cisco ASA, Checkpoint. All those firewalls you can deploy there, you know, as a what is that called? Third party, you know, tools, application. You can deploy the bring your own license kind of terminologies are there, right? You can deploy your firewall and you can create exactly your data center kind of environment. In the middle, you have the hub VPC. So all traffic from one VPC, two VPC, three VPC, 100 VPC will go to that central hub VPC, and that central hub VPC will have your firewall. So everybody is routing. So all VPC, inter VPC or VPC to data center, VPC to internet, everything will route through those firewalls. So you can do that, okay? All right, so we talked about these security group and NACL, okay? Let's see them in action right now. First, let's see the default one. Okay, so I'm in the NACL. Let's see the default NACL. Okay, it was created when we created the VPC, right? Let's see what are the rules here. Okay, so inbound rules. So what is the default rule? By default, whenever you create, these will be there, okay? 100, number 100 rule is saying all traffic type, protocol all, we know that protocol, right? IP, TCP, UDP, those ICMP, those are the protocol, right? Port range all, as I said, you know, you need to define port 80, port 80, port 443 for HTTPS or, you know, SQL 1443, 1493. So those kind of ports, right? Source. So you remember I told you source. So I said security group. NACL is also like that, right? So you are only define the secure source here. You are not telling the destination here. You see that? Destination you will tell for the outbound rules. So okay, by default, what is there? It is saying from any source allow. Yeah. And also you see the default rule star here. This is the last entry. You in our access list, right? End entry is always by default the deny all, right? It's same entry. And in the end, we say lock so that every connection is logged there, right? So it is similar to that. It's a denied. Okay. So it's a contradicting. So this one, the 100. Okay. By the way, the numbers are important here. Okay. Rule number 100. So lower number will be preference. So if I want to edit for example, this one, right? So I can create another rule here. So it will tell me what number I want. Let me give number 10 here. Yeah. And let me say custom TCP port. Okay. Port range. Let me say port 80, for example, HTTP traffic. Source. Let me say 192. I'm just giving you just for idea. Okay. 1.0 from this subnet and allow or deny. That's it. Action. This is called the network access list. Let's create this. Save changes. Okay. So let's see what is happening now. So the 10 has gone up now. This is what I was trying to tell you basically. The lower rule is the higher preference basically. Yeah, in the ACL also, right? You have the sequence 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It is similar to that. So lower number has the higher preference. So it has gone on the top. Okay. If I say in the lower number deny all, so no traffic will be allowed at all. Okay. So anyways, so outbound rule, if we look at same thing by default, something is created for us. So means it's saying you can go everywhere. So NACL by default is not protecting anything. It's allowing everything inbound and outbound. Okay. So more granularity will actually, and we don't do much, as I said, in NACL, we just say that, okay, from my private subnet, bigger subnet, like 10.0.0.8, 192.168, and 172.16/12, allow everything, inbound, outbound. Other than that, we don't do much in the NACL, okay? So what we do is, okay, now, okay, because as I'm saying, I'm not doing much in the NACL. So if you see subnet association of this NACL, because it was created for this VPC, you will see that this is associated with all the subnets, correct? So all six subnets are associated with this NACL. So this NACL is actually in practical, when I created these six subnets, my NACL is attached with this subnet, this subnet, this subnet, this subnet, this subnet, all six subnets. Okay. In the future, if I create more subnets, it will be automatically attached there also. Okay. And we know that rules. We just created one, custom rule. Other than that, it's a default rules are there, which is allowing everything from everywhere and inbound, outbound both. Okay. So NACL, that's it. Not much in the NACL. More things happen in the security group actually. So let's see the security group. So after this, we'll take break. Okay, after the security group. So let's understand the security group. Okay, we'll not do much. We'll just see what is there. Okay, by default. So this is the default security group created. So you see here default, and this is, by the way, this security group is also created for which VPC? 187. Let's see what is our VPC ID here. Actual VPC ID 187. So when we created this VPC, it created our NACLs as well as security group here. Okay, so this is associated with this NACL. We can remove this association. By the way, we can create our own security group, which we will do, by the way. Okay, we can do our NACL also. We don't have to rely on this default one. Okay, but NACL, because we are not making any changes, so I will keep the default one, but this one definitely I'm going to change. So let's first name tag is going to change. Then let's change the tag, name tag. So let's say default RD, default VPC, not the default VPC, WPV 1. Okay, web prod 1 VPC. Okay, default RD. So if let's look at what are the default rules in the security group. So security group inbound rule is, let's edit and see what is there. Okay, it is saying all traffic source is custom. When it's in custom, actually it has picked up this security group. Okay, so same security group says 742 here, and it is saying allow traffic, allow all traffic. Okay, and by the way, security group doesn't tell you whether allow or deny. Okay, it only tells you what you want to permit. Okay, protocol all, traffic all, port all, right? This is all it is by default. So what it is saying, wherever this security group is applied, okay, those guys can talk to each other. Okay, so what I'm trying to say here is that in the future, in the upcoming session, we will create these instances, right? So when I create this instance, that default security group will be applied here. So wherever that security group is applied, those people can talk to each other. So please understand, this is different than the routing table. Okay, this is your firewall rules basically. So these people can talk. Okay, other than that, nobody can talk to them. Okay, so this is the default rule there, and outbound rule also will be, outbound will be all. So from this security group, if you click here, okay, this is security group ID. Forget about this one. This is in the NACL, we had number, right? 10, 20, 100, something like that. Here you don't give the number. It's automatically assigned some ID here. Okay, so forget about this one. All traffic, it is saying destination all. So what it is saying, outbound from these servers, you can go anywhere. Okay. However, inbound, only the servers where that security group is applied, those can talk to each other. But outbound, they can go anywhere. That's all it is saying. Okay, so if I go to this diagram again, okay, so by default, what will happen? These servers can go outside internet, but nobody can come to them because inbound it is denied other than security group, right? NACL is applied. So let's see that quickly. Okay, I'm not creating security group right now. So when we come back from the break, we'll create the security group, and after that we will further jump on. So before we go to break, let me first. Okay, do you have any question first of all?
Yeah, so but can you show me the inbound rule of the security group?
Yeah, let me go to security group for you. Yeah, inbound rule is from. So let's edit it here. Okay.
So right now, both inbound and outbound are allowing all the traffic, right?
No, that's not. Inbound, it is saying source this security group. Custom. See here, these are the options. You can say which IP you want to come from, right? So by default, it is saying this security group is allowed. What does it mean basically? What's happening? Is somebody sorry, what happened?
Yeah, yeah, still confused. Like, so the inbound it is allowing one security group, right? Did we create that or?
No. As I said, when we created the VPC, right? So this security group was also created for us. This one. Yeah, it's the same thing. 742. Here's you look at the number here. Security 742. It's a 742 in the end, right? What it is saying actually, wherever the security group, whichever instances this security group is applied, right? So let's say this security group is applied in these 3 servers. So they can talk to each other. That's all it is saying. Other than that, nobody can talk. So your point that anybody can talk to them, no. But they can go out anywhere. Inbound, only these servers, wherever we will apply this security group, only those can talk. We'll see that in action when we come back.
Yeah, little confusing probably when we create.
Yeah, understand that because it's a new concept. So it will be, but it will be clear to you in the next, when we'll see this in action. Okay. Because security group right now, unless until we define the servers, EC2 instance we create, right? We can't see that in action, right? So we'll do that later.
Yep.
Yeah, after this break. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
let